because he just staff,
Yes.
everybody kind of wants to.
Good morning. I'd like to open the meeting at 9:04. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, I want to let you know that we are trying to contact Dorchester so that anybody from Dorchester can check in and vote. Taylor Annette, our budget committee representative, is trying to call somebody right now, so we'll let you know when they appear. Okay. My name is Deborah Ford. Thank you for electing me to the moderator position. I'm very excited. First, I'd like to introduce the school board. Please raise your hand when I say your name. Tim Josephson, Chair. Hope Regioanl, Canaan Representative. Vicki Conkey is not here from Dorchester. Don Archibald from Enfield. Daniel Thompson, Vice Chair from Enfield. Bruce DeGove is not here from Grafton. And Kathleen Stacy, Secretary from Orange. I'd also like to introduce Amanda Isabel, the Superintendent. Legal Counsel, Peter Phillips. Business Administrator, Michelle Lockwood. And Kamala Gunn, District Clerk. Next, I'd like to introduce the Budget Committee members. Scott Sanborn, Chair. Wally Andrew, the Vice Chair. Andrew Cushing, the Grafton Representative. Amber Bissonette, the Enfield Rep. Elise Payson, I don't want to mess up your name, also Enfield Rep. Taylor Annette is trying to contact Dorchester, and Corinne Morris could not make it today. Next, I'd like to review the rules of the moderator. The moderator will use the following general rules of procedure, whose main purpose is to keep the meeting moving. The moderator will take articles in the order they appear on the warrant. The moderator will announce the article number and read the text of the article. The moderator will then accept a motion to open the article for discussion. If the motion is seconded, the moderator will recognize a member of the school board and/or the budget committee to explain the article. The moderator will then open the floor for discussion. The actual voting will take place on voting day on March 11th at the polls for all warrant articles. Everyone who speaks must use a microphone so they can be heard. The microphones are located at the top of the auditorium and in the center of the auditorium. No one may speak unless they have the floor. And no one may have the floor unless recognized by the moderator. Except for points of order, the moderator will not recognize speakers unless they are standing at one of the microphones. Each speaker must state their name and town of residence clearly for the district clerk. The moderator will allow only one motion on the floor at a time, and all motions must be in writing. The moderator will not accept negative motions that require a no vote to vote in the affirmative. The moderator will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate language. Any person behaving in a disorderly manner, and after notice from the moderator, persists in such behavior, they may be removed from the meeting. All questions and comments must be addressed to the moderator. The moderator will choose who responds to the question. Each speaker may only speak once until everyone has had the opportunity to speak. I will now read the warrant articles as you have in your annual report on pages 3 and 4 or on your handout. After I take a drink of water. To the inhabitants of the Mascoma Valley Regional School District in the county of Grafton and the state of New Hampshire, consisting of the towns of Canaan, Dorchester, Enfield, Grafton, and Orange, qualified to vote in district affairs. You are hereby notified to meet on Saturday, February 1st, 2025, at 9 a.m. at the Mascoma Valley Regional High School Auditorium in Canaan, New Hampshire, for the first session of the annual school district meeting, to hear explanation, discuss, and debate the subjects in warrant articles 3 through 8. Articles 3 through 8 may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended at the February 1st session shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. You are also hereby notified to meet again on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, for the second session of the annual school district meeting to vote by official ballot to elect officers, to vote questions required by law to be inserted on said official ballot, and to vote on all warrant articles from the first session. Location and polling hours for March 11th, 2025 session are as follows. Town of Canaan, Canaan Fire Station, polling hours 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Dorchester, Dorchester Town Hall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Enfield, Enfield Community Building, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Grafton, Grafton Fire and Ambulance Station, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Orange, Orange Town Hall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Article 1, to choose school board members. To choose by ballot 2 members of the school board, each to be elected at large. 1 to serve a 3-year term ending in 2028 from the town of Canaan, and 1 to serve a 3-year term ending in 2028 from the town of Enfield. Article 2, to choose district budget committee members. To choose by ballot 2 members of the district budget committee, each to be elected at large. 1 to serve a 3-year term ending in 2028 from the town of Canaan, and 1 to serve a 3-year term ending in 2028 from the town of Enfield. Operating budget, Article 3. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first deliberative session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $32,448,105. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $32,125,316, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Mascoma Valley Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold 1 special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required. The school board recommends this Article 600, and the Budget Committee recommends this Article 800. I would like to entertain a motion to waive the reading of Articles 4 through 8 until such time as we are ready to discuss.
I'll make that motion.
Tim Josephson, seconded by Scott Sanborn. I'd also like to, excuse me? You're not in the microphone, you're not recognizing yourself, and I'll let you know when it's time to open public discussion. Right now, I'm going to have the school board and the budget committee present the article first. So I would entertain a motion to open Article 3 for discussion.
So moved.
Tim Josephson, seconded by Danielle Thompson. I'd like to invite Scott Thompson, well that's funny, Scott Sanborn to speak to Article 3, the operating budget.
Good morning, and thanks for coming out to take part in this process. We appreciate that. It's not the crowds we have had in years past, but we're glad you were here. I'm Scott Sanborn. I'm the Orange representative to the Budget Committee and this year's chair. The first thing I'd like to do is just thank everyone who's worked on this process with us. So my fellow Budget Committee members, the school board is also part of the process, and the administration of the school, more than anybody, puts in countless hours to make this all happen. The operating budget you see before you today is all boiled down to one single number. But the process of arriving at that number began last summer, if even before, and went throughout the fall. The Budget Committee begins meeting in September, and during the process we hear from each individual school principal, each department head, the administrator, business administrator, and superintendent put countless hours into bringing us the individual budgets, and we go over everything line by line during the course of the fall. And then we ask a lot of questions, and we ask for justification, and at the end of the process we boil it down to the single number you see before you. So it's not something that gets plucked out of the air. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. We don't start with just an arbitrary figure. We start with a clean slate every year. We obviously rely on past expenditures to help predict what we might need in the coming year, but we don't start with a preconceived notion of what the budget should be. We start with the information we're given that we need to ensure that our students are getting an appropriate education and an adequate education. So speaking to this year's budget specifically, it is a modest increase, about 1.2%, that over last year's budget appropriation. If this is not passed, the default budget is about a 0.2% increase. Enrollment is down slightly again. That's been a little bit of a trend, not just for us, but statewide. And we've reflected that with a couple of positions that are not being refilled in the staff. So we recognize that, and the staffing reflects that, which helps keep the number down. Compared to some of the nearby districts and similar districts to us, this increase is extremely modest. Most of the districts in the area, both large and small, are looking at increases of 2%, up to 7 or 8% in some cases. So we think we've been very responsible in trying to keep this to really a little more than a cost of living type of increase. As is often the case, the major driver of the increases are the contracted salary and benefits, which have been previously approved by the voters. We have no control over those increases. Health insurance costs have gone up about 13% this year. Again, something we have no control over. The busing contract has gone up by about $100,000. The school board worked diligently to try to find bids to keep that down, and they got one bid, and our students need to get to school, so we have no choice. Once again, our anticipated special education costs are going to be down a little bit this year, which also helped us to keep the budget manageable. That's due just to some changes in enrollment and the need for special services that are going to be, we anticipate are going to be required. That can always change, but as of now, that's what our predictions are. And just as a aside, about a quarter of our students are identified as having some sort of special need, and so that special education budget is what makes sure that all those needs are met and they can get an adequate, appropriate education with whatever they happen to be dealing with. So beyond that, this is really primarily just cost of living type increases. Utilities are up a little bit, and our contracts for plowing and field maintenance and things like that have all gone up a little bit, but it's really, there's no big initiatives in this budget, just cost of living. So our administration has done really an amazing job of trying to pare things down. We looked very closely at the IT, the technological department, and we've identified some areas there that we were able to take out of the budget and again try to keep it manageable. So to summarize, just an awful lot of work by an awful lot of people has gone into coming down to this one number you see before you. I think once again everyone has been involved in the process. Thank you for coming out this morning, and we ask for your support of the budget on Article 3. Thank you.
And Tim Josephson will speak from the school board on Article 3.
Thank you. My name is Tim Josephson, I'm chair of the school board. I don't have much more to add aside from what Scott already said. The school board is appreciative of the administration for crafting a budget that is, to be frank, to be honest, it's tight. It's a good budget that has minimal increases to the taxpayers. So we felt that was very important, while also meeting the needs of our students. We have a diverse need across every kid from K through 12. They all have individual needs, and this budget meets their needs. And we ask for your support. Thank you.
Before I open this up for public discussion, I'd like anybody who is a non-resident to raise your hand. Thank you. I'd like a vote on allowing anybody that's a non-resident to speak if necessary. Raise your card if you're in agreement. And if you disagree, raise your card. The ayes have it. The next thing I'd like to do is assign counters. Matt, would you count for that side? And pick up this side of the middle. And Tina, would you count for this side? And pick up from me to that side. And I'll count the votes up here. Okay, I'd like to open Article 3 for discussion. Please come to the microphone, state your name and your town.
Dave Buffet, Enfield. I should add that you recognize me. I don't see anybody else. Once again, I applaud the Budget Committee and the school board and administration for coming in with a very responsible budget. One thing that's come up during Enfield's town budget discussions has been a calculation of the tax impacts in previous years as compared to current year. And I would like to hear what those might be for the 5 towns and the percentage increases over several years. Thank you.
Who would like to speak to that? I can, but I don't think I should. Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Lockwood, Business Administrator. So we do not have those numbers. We don't know what the impact would be until we know how many students come from each of the towns.
Just the people you see up here before you can only come up with the number that we need to operate the schools. The way that gets divided out in terms of taxation and what it costs each individual in each town is out of our control. The district uses an average daily membership or the enrollment for each town to proportion out the amount that each town is obligated to contribute to the budget. Each town's total contribution is affected by things like the state adequacy aid grant, additional grants the state makes. It's impacted very strongly by each town's total property valuation, and we could have a 2-day seminar and still not touch on everything that plays into that. But there's a lot of factors beyond what we do here that determine the tax rate. We can only come up with a number that is required to operate the schools properly. If people are interested in seeing that system change, you need to work with your representatives to the state, and you need to elect people that are interested in working with the system and trying to improve the system. We have no control over that, so we only can try to come up with a number that will efficiently operate the school district, and we think that's what we've done.
Thank you, Scott. At the top microphone.
I'm not sure. Oh, it is live. It didn't sound like it was. Carol Ann Morrison, Canaan. I talked yesterday with a friend of mine who lives down in the southern part of the state in a relatively wealthy community. They have approximately 3 times as many students as we have. It costs them approximately 3 times as much money. They do not have a significant special ed group. They don't not have a significant level of poverty. Those are things that we have larger numbers per capita just because we're a rural community, and that's just the way it is. So when we start talking about, this is a big number, the mind boggles. Their big number is close to 100 million. So we need to keep that in perspective. By the way, she has figured out that the cost they pay per student is actually less per student than the average in the state. So I'm guessing we are as well. We're as tight as we can be in providing the services we need to provide to the students' population we have.
Thank you, Carolyn. Was there someone else that wanted to speak to this article?
Yes, Yakov above Grafton, I'd like to make an amendment.
Could you bring it forward? Could you actually read it first and then bring it forward? I can read it. Okay, so the motion is to amend the operating budget, Article 3, so that it says, shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first deliberative session for the purposes set forth, totaling $31,448,105. Should this article be defeated, the default budget will be $32,125,316, which is the same as the last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Mascoma Valley Regional School District by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. So in effect, this would reduce the budget by $1 million. So is that the motion? Okay, so is there discussion on this motion? Oh, I need a second first. Thank you. Does someone second this motion? Please go to the mic and state your name and town, please.
Gary Whitney, Grafton.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, we have a second on the motion to amend the operating budget to reduce it by $1 million. So we will vote by your cards. So all those in favor. Oh, do you want to speak to it?
Yes.
Thank you.
That is a $1 million reduced to the proposed budget, not the current budget. Well, I think the budget should be reduced to the number I proposed, and here's why. The school every year loses 10 to 20 students every year, and that should be lowering the tax liability by at least $300,000. What happens to all that money? Even with the addition to the student body of preschool and 13th grade, the number of students in the school district continues to drop. Since the mid-90s, the school lost 38% of its students, but yet the budget has gone up every year. The scores have remained stagnant. The grades of the students generally have remained the same ever since the 90s with no big changes. And in fact, 11th grade was reported to have below 7% grades than state and national averages. The tax implications to the residents, to homeowners and rentals is large, and the increasing budget every year is simply making the tax liability pretty high. The Valley News reported that over 50% of New Hampshire residents are in fear of being priced out of their home. The school reported last year over $700,000 of a surplus. I didn't see the number for this year, but it's usually somewhat the same. And it has over $1.5 million in capital reserves. Why is these increase in taxes necessary? That's that.
Thank you. Before the next person, does anybody want to respond to the unassigned fund balance at year end? Okay, go ahead. I recognize Tim.
Tim Monahan, Enfield. Speaking as a parent of kids in the school, as a resident of Enfield, and somewhat based on my position as the Assistant Advocate for Special Education, although I do not represent my office, just by way of background. I think people should understand a couple of things. One is the state's contribution, the state grant to local school districts is very much in dispute in the state. It's at the Supreme Court, and one judge has already said it should be over $7,000, and the state has maintained the same level at around $4,000. So it's kind of hard to plan around that. It's a big difference in pupil aid. Just yesterday at the Education Finance hearing at the State House, and if you're a nerd, you'll watch it like me, the Director of Special Education for the state testified when asked why special education costs were more and why specific categories, significantly involving neurodiverse children, well, why was the raise there? And we're getting better at recognizing it. That's the answer. Those things cost money. I think it's amazing that we're able to save money in special ed in the budget in this climate. We're finding more and more. The pandemic left a hole in fundamental reading skills for elementary school kids. It's nobody's fault. It happened. We had, if any of you also had a kid having kindergarten by Zoom, you know exactly what I mean. Those things require specialized services. We can't even get the services. They're not easy to find, but we have to provide them or we will pay a lot more later. I think the other piece that's important here is a budget is going to go up every year if you're able to maintain your staff. If you're able to keep good teachers year after year after year and good janitors, I love Ed, by the way, some props for Ed, it's because they stayed and they might get a little bit more money. And in public service, a little bit more money is not what you're thinking about. It really is a little bit more money. It's 2% more a year or something on average across state, federal, everything. That's part of why costs go up. We all know exactly what it means now to buy eggs, coffee, all these things. I bought a bottle of molasses at Christmas to make a gingerbread. It was $8. Tara was going to call the cardiologist. I mean, those are facts. Some of these things just cost more. I think we're doing a great job with what we have. I oppose this motion because I think we've done due diligence to get the lowest number that's reasonable. And that's really what we should be making our decisions on, not anything else. Just, is this reasonable for what we're getting? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Joseph Wood, Enfield. I oppose this motion due to the basis that looking at the capital improvement budget, I believe that there are definitely projects that are planned, and being able to take the money out of that fund in order to have this motion, I think, would be a poor financial choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I mentioned previously, my name's Gary Whitney, I'm from Grafton, and I'm in favor of this motion, mainly because I've looked at my taxes, I've looked at the costs, I've looked at the declining enrollments, and I've heard the previous speakers say, well, yeah, the costs go up. Well, why? Students are going down, costs are going up. Something's wrong with this picture. The budget committee, the school committee has to look hard and make cuts. There are very good teachers here, I admit that, but there aren't enough students to keep justifying these numbers year after year after year. And it was mentioned we have judges and courts that are saying we have to spend more. We are tired of unelected bureaucrats telling us what we have to spend on our kids and on our schools. That's why I'm in favor of this. It's about time this has to stop. We need more taxpayers coming forward and saying this is enough. Stop it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Thomas Opel from Canaan, but I'm also the state representative. Thank you, Chairman Sanborn, for putting the finger on that. I'll say a couple things. First of all, I do not have children in the school district. I did some time ago. Amazingly enough, when my 3 children grew up and left the house, my heating bill didn't go down. Seemed simple to me. I've got the same house to heat, but my heating bill didn't go down. Some bills went down, and as this school board and this budget committee have worked so hard to tweak where they could and to tighten where they could, as they said, the other thing is my health insurance didn't go down. All of these costs, and I can understand the frustration of some taxpayers, but I suggest 2 things, and I'll try to make it quick. First is, the state of New Hampshire, as a state, contributes the least amount to public education of any of the 50 states. The least amount. Despite a state constitution that says we must cherish public education. And that public education system has made this nation the greatest, most prosperous nation in the world and given opportunity to everyone. And we risk hurting that, destroying that system at our peril. The second thing I will say is, I think beyond the value of a public education, which is critically important, there's an economic value. Yes, we are losing students. New Hampshire is losing students and young people across the board. We are now, by population, the 2nd oldest state in the country. We are losing a workforce. We are losing children. We have more deaths than births every year. And at some point, that economically will come back to cripple us. There will not be enough workers. There will not be enough skilled people. And there will not be enough people willing to move to these areas, to this state, to this Mascoma Valley. Because if they have children, they're saying, I'm looking for the best education possible for my children. This is not just a moral issue, not just an issue for our children, not just the issue of public education, but it's also an economic issue. And if you want to see the tax rates go up, if we keep cutting public education and not supporting it, those tax rates will go up significantly. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Dan Buffet, I don't see anybody else who hasn't spoken. Echo this previous speaker and call the question, please.
The gentleman here.
Wayne, I'll recognize Wayne, who's already at the microphone.
Wayne Morrison, Canaan.
As someone who's been on the board and the budget committee in the past, I'm intimately familiar with the process that goes on, and there are some things that I think people don't really understand. Let me give you a for instance. If the school population goes down by 30, you might think, well, that's one teacher we can do without. It doesn't work that way. 30 fewer students might mean 1 or 2 in each classroom. That doesn't let you lower the number of teachers that you're using at that point. It has to be a much larger drop in order to start losing teachers. In addition, you might look at the budget and say, this is a large number, and $1 million out of that is something easy to take. But most of the budget is required in some way or another. The part that's optional are things like books, paper. That's the kind of things that you'd be cutting with this large of a budget increase. So I stand in opposition to the motion. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, regarding the special ed education, if anybody's worried about that there will be no funding there, the school already holds $693,000 in reserve that has never been touched. So if there is to arise an issue, I'm sure there's money there. To those who are concerned about the loss in younger people in the district and in the state, it's quite obvious why that is. The housing is just aren't affordable. These increases in taxes that are supposed to benefit the students are in the long run hurting them when they will try to settle in this district. That's why a lot of the students who end up graduating from school move away.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Sanborn to respond. Yes, I asked Scott to respond before the motion was called.
So briefly, I just want to remind everybody that with no exaggeration, thousands and thousands of hours have gone into boiling this down to the number you see before you. This is not just plucked from thin air. Thousands and thousands of hours that we've worked on this. The Budget Committee asked a lot of hard questions of the administration and tried to bring this down as much as we reasonably think we can. To respond to the idea of the unexpended funds at the end of the year, the analogy I like to use for this is in your home budgeting, if you're hiring somebody to plow your driveway, you budget for a heavy snow year. You don't budget for 3 snowstorms. You budget for a heavy snow year. You hope you have something left in that budget at the end of the year. If you do, you can put it back into your little black box in your bedroom, or you can use it to improve your driveway so maybe next year's snow plowing won't be quite as expensive. It's the same concept. And then, yeah, I mean, and then what was the last? Oh, special education. Any one of you here that has children in the district could be in a tragic accident, and your child might need hundreds of thousands of dollars of services. That's why the Capital Reserve Fund is there. Not just as a slush fund. It's there to account for unforeseen circumstances, and those could affect any one of you. So don't just assume that couldn't be the case. Capital Reserve Funds are there to keep us from having to all of a sudden come up with an extra $500,000 in an annual budget, and then your tax rates go through the roof. It's sound planning. That's what we're trying to do. Thank you. Thank
you, Scott. The motion has been called. Does anybody want me to read the motion again? Do I need to, Peter? So the motion is to reduce the proposed operating by $1 million. My counters, are you ready to count? If you are in favor of this motion to reduce the operating budget by $1 million, raise your card. If you are opposed to this motion to reduce the operating budget by $1 million, raise your card. The noes have it. The motion fails. Tim Joseph has made a motion to limit reconsideration on Article 3. Oh, that's one amendment. Well, we don't vote on the article, though. Right, but he's...
Would you like me to move the question on the budget?
We don't need to. So the budget will go on the official ballot as presented in your warrant article. The motion now is to limit reconsideration on Article 3. This means it cannot come back up. We don't vote on, we vote on the amendment, but we do not vote on the articles. And Scott Sanborn has seconded the motion to limit reconsideration, and that means we cannot bring up Article 3 again today or any time in the future. Okay, Article 4, negotiated agreement support staff personnel. Yeah, we do have to do that. Sorry, this is my first time, can you tell? We do have to vote. We have to have a motion to... Oh, right. Oh, sorry about that. Yes, so let's vote on limiting reconsideration on Article 3. If you agree that we should limit reconsideration on Article 3, please raise your card. No. And those opposed to limiting reconsideration, please raise your card. Okay. I apologize. All right.
Order, Madam Moderator?
Yes.
Do we have a legal issue if Dorchester voters can't vote because they're not even registered to?
That's a good question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Point of order was, do we have a legal issue if the residents of Dorchester cannot vote, as they cannot register? Their clerk is not here.
The question is whether there's a legal question about the fact that the Dorchester voters have not been able to check in. The district is still conducting its business. The Dorchester vote will sort itself out as we proceed, but that will not hold up the business of the district.
Is it okay if I ask that? I'll ask him. Who is here from Dorchester? I know Taylor. Okay. There is somebody on the way. All right. Okay. All right, we'll get a motion to open up. I have a motion to open up Article 4 for discussion. Scott Sanborn, Tim Josephson made the motion, and Scott Sanborn seconded. Okay, let me try again. Article 4, negotiated agreement support staff personnel. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Mascoma Valley Regional School Board and the Mascoma Valley Regional Support Staff Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year 2026, estimated increase is $214,545. Estimated fiscal year 2027 increase, $149,211. Estimated 2028 increase, $63,354. And further, to raise and appropriate $214,545 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Recommendations required. Majority vote required. School Board recommends 7-0-0. Budget Committee recommends 8-0-0. Tim Josephson, Chair of the School Board.
Point of order. I believe there's somebody at the front table from Grafton,
Dorchester.
or Dorchester. May I suggest that residents from Dorchester check in during a brief recess with that individual that can then be passed on to the clerk when he or she arrives?
Was there anybody here from Dorchester besides Taylor? No.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. School Board entered into negotiations with our support staff union this past fall. We met many times with the representatives, and worked out what we feel is a fair increase for both the support staff and at a fair cost to taxpayers here in the district. We recognize that the contract that they were currently on was negotiated before a lot of the inflation that we've seen in recent years, and these people on this contract, these are our custodians, our maintenance, our paraprofessionals, our one-on-one special ed paraprofessionals, our secretaries. These are the people that keep our school running. These are the people that really do the work behind the scenes. And the additional part is that probably about 95% of these people live in district. They're taxpayers too. And we just felt that this was a fair contract that was able to switch them to a more affordable plan, healthcare plan for the district that allowed them some more choice for the support staff. And we feel it's a fair contract. So we ask for your support in this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to open warrant Article 4 for discussion. If there is no discussion, we will move on. Tim Josephson is making a motion to limit reconsideration on Article 4. Scott Sanborn is seconding. Please raise your card if you agree to limit reconsideration on Article 4. Thank you. Raise your card if you vote no on limiting reconsideration on Article 4. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to introduce Article number 5. Pick. All right. Article 5, Fund Facilities Capital Reserve. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $350,000 to be added to the Facilities Capital Reserve previously established in 1988 to fund the capital improvement plan. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance, available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School Board recommends this Article 500. The Budget Committee recommends this Article 800. I believe Hope is speaking to this warrant article. let's see, Article 5, we are, was established, the Capital Reserve Fund was established in 1988 for the purposes of funding school facility projects over $25,000. The plan itself can be found on page 31 of the 2025-2026 annual report and represents the administration's current 10-year plan for ongoing repair, replacement, and upgrades for all our facilities. Total costs over the 10-year period equal approximately $3.6 million. Next year's costs for anticipated projects are estimated at $346,000. This warrant article is requesting that the facilities capital reserve be funded in the amount of $350,000 from year-end unassigned fund balances. Funding projects out of year-end unassigned fund balances helps keep the budget and local school property tax rates level and provides a buffer and proactive management plan for the school's facilities. Our ability to retain these funds gives the district the capacity to improve and maintain our facilities, providing the district's children with safe and healthy learning environment. We very much appreciate your support. And Scott Sanborn will speak representing the Budget Committee.
I'd just like to speak in general about the capital reserve funds. These are something that we use as part of sound long-term budget planning. And it allows us to help keep the budget year to year more stable, and rather than having large increases and large spikes and large fluctuations. So we ask that you support all these capital reserve funds, and also this is a reminder that it's no additional taxation for any of these. They only are funded if there's funding available from the operating budget at the end of the year. So we're not raising any tax rates any further by approving these articles, but it's part of sound planning.
Thank you, Scott. Is there any discussion from the floor?
Gary Whitney, again from Grafton. Just to comment briefly on what Scott just said. It is true, but I do know, however, though, that any money that is left over at the end of the year by RSA is supposed to be returned to the taxpayers in the form of a credit for future taxes. And so that if we do spend more money on these warrant articles, there'd be less money returned to the taxpayers. So in a sense, there is an increase in taxation for all these warrant articles if they are passed. Just want to make that clear. I note on this warrant article that last year we only took $250,000, and I note this year we've increased that a whole $100,000. That's a very excessive amount, and I don't really think that that is justified. I note in the capital improvement plan that if we keep taking an amount of this nature out, by the out years we get to close to like $500,000 in excess. So accordingly, I'd like to propose an amendment to this that essentially decreases that amount back to what it was last year, $250,000, and I have a amendment that so does that, and I will bring it forward if you want.
So, do I read the motion first and then get a second? Okay, I want to do this correctly. So the amendment will be, shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $250,000 to be added to the Facilities Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 1988 to fund the capital improvement plan, this sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second to this motion?
I'll second Jacobo Grafton.
Thank you. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the motion on the floor?
Dan Kiley, Enfield. I'm opposed to the amendment because if you look at the 10-year plan, if you were to lower this $100,000, at the end of 10 years, you'd actually have a negative balance in your CIP fund. But you have to remember with a 10-year plan, we're looking at this lovely new school here. In 10 years, it's going to be 20 years old. And there's going to be things that are needed to be put in. A 10-year plan is set up so that you do have enough money through the entire plan. If you keep dropping what you're going to put into the plan, then you're going to have a negative balance by the end of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I recognize Carol.
Carol Morrison from Canaan. So, years ago, when I worked in the school library, all of a sudden, water came through the roof. There was an unplanned for leak in the roof at the middle school, and they had to patch it. If they had not had this fund, they would have had to take money out of the budget, which already covers pretty much everything most of the time. Stuff happens. Additionally, you just have to, in my bank account, when Lynn gets his Social Security check, part of it goes into a bank account. We have it if there's an emergency, and if there isn't, we're building some money so that we can do something fun. That's what we're doing here. We're putting the money aside so we have it when we need it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think talking about the future is important, and a decade down the line, we should see probably with the numbers that are currently going, a 10% jump in students. So that should be at least a $3 million spare money.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Tim Josephson would like to call the question. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. Okay, I'm not going to read the motion again unless somebody wants me to. The motion on the floor is to reduce Article 5 by $100,000, so it would go from $350,000 to $250,000. If you are in favor of this amendment to Article 5, please raise your card. Thank you. If you are opposed to this amendment, please raise your card. The noes have it. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to limit reconsideration on Article 5. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. All those, is there any discussion on limiting reconsideration? All right. All those in favor signify by raising a card. Opposed? Thank you. Tim Joseph made a motion to open Article 6. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. Right, but there's nothing on the floor right now to speak to.
You're still on Article 5.
Oh, I didn't see you, I'm sorry.
Jim Jetty, Enfield. I have a question, but it's for clarification, and it involves actually the next 4 warrant articles, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So do I ask that question for clarification now, or do I have to wait?
Sure, you can ask it now.
Okay. Those 4 warrant articles, they add up to, as probably other people have added it up to, $375,000. But the important thing on that is, and this is where my question is going to come in, the last sentence on each article, no amount to be raised from additional taxation. But if you turn to page 12, it says proposed budget, and the second thing is warrant articles, $375 to be raised by taxation. So I don't get it. In one sentence it says no taxation, but in the proposed budget it says yes, there is taxation. Can I have clarification on that, please?
So if you're looking at the MS-27, that's the proposed budget, which would include all warrant articles.
Yeah, 2025 MS-27 proposed budget for 25. And the second one underneath there is the special warrant articles, which is articles 5 through 8, 375,000. But back when they're in page 4, when they're described, that last sentence says no amount to be raised by taxation. So I don't know what the story is there.
You're looking at page 12.
Yes. Yes.
Page 12, the MS-27 is just the proposed budget. It's nothing to do with taxation, whether it's taxable or not.
Well, it's the proposed budget that has everything in it.
It's included in the total budget per the DRA on the MS-27. It's not included in the operating budget, that is Article 3. The special warrant articles come out of year-end unassigned fund balance, basically revenues over expenditures. The money comes out of unassigned fund balance at year-end.
I don't really understand what you're talking about. I'm looking at that they're proposing for $375 for taxation. I think Mr. Andrews has a question, has an answer.
If you look at what we
Right.
approved
Wait.
in Article 3, it's 32,938.
Operating budget, Article 3. That's the budget, 32,448,105. Those additional amounts on the MS-27 are the additional amounts on the warrant. They're not, it has nothing to do with what comes out of taxable amounts. Technically, if the budget is $32,448,105, those funds will end up coming out of that money if there is money left at year end. Does that make sense? It's unassigned fund balance that funds those. So technically it's coming out of the base. That's the MS-27 that the state requires us to complete, and that's the format.
Yeah, I guess it's just confusing to me. I don't know about other people. When
No,
it says,
I agree.
when one thing says no amount, and then you take the proposed budget, it says yes, there is taxation.
Right,
So I
right.
guess it's just confusing to me, but
So the Department of Revenue Administrations and the Department of Education, you could email them.
okay, thanks.
But I agree, it is a little confusing. All right, but thank you for your question.
If I can just clarify that a little bit, I made the point previously in response to a statement that Scott made that, as was said, the warrant articles take money that was from the unassigned fund balance. If this money is not spent for these warrant articles, that will be part of the money that by RSA, page 42 of this document, is going to be returned to the taxpayers. If this money is spent for warrant articles, it means the taxpayers get less money back as credit for future taxes. So the statement that says this is not being funded by taxes is absolutely wrong. And it's disingenuous of the people here to try and say that. Look at page 42, this past year.
Let me clarify what it says in the warrant articles. No amount to be raised by additional taxation. No additional taxation. Yes, everything that is spent at the school comes from taxes or the state.
It still means the taxpayers are getting less money and having to spend more by not getting it back. That's the whole point.
Right, but the taxpayers are voting on each warrant article. Yeah. So we don't have any article open right now to discuss. So let's move on and then we can discuss these further at that point. Okay, Scott Sanborn made a motion to open Article 6 for discussion. Tim Josephson seconded. All right, I'm going to read this first. Okay. Article 6, moving right along. Fund accreditation activities, capital reserve fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum up to $5,000 to be added to the accreditation activities capital reserve fund previously established in 2002. This sum to come from June 30th, fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School board recommends 5-0-0. Budget committee recommends 8-0-0. I recognize Danielle Thompson to speak to this article.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming out today. Article 6 helps to fund our accreditation activities. As we've talked about in the past, we are coming up on our decennial accreditation at the high school. The accreditation provides for an extensive self-reflection and in-person visits as part of a cycle of continuous improvement and growth. The organization that we work with on accreditation is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and having that independent review helps us to really provide our students with the best possible educational outcomes and having them ready for their further education and endeavors or for the workforce. I did want to call out in particular the amazing work of Tina Fleming here at the high school and with the faculty and staff that have really been preparing for this for years now. April Guinness, our director of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. You think I've been here long enough, I know what those are, but the acronyms get me sometimes too. The work that has been going on throughout this process, really starting in the 22-23 school year, is laying the groundwork for a new step in the accreditation process, which will happen this fall, which is a collaborative conference. And this will allow the work that's been done so far to come in front of a group of independent reviewers and give our folks a chance to really show off the work that's been done. Because you probably all have one of our amazing annual reports in your hands, I'll just point out a couple of pages to you. You'll of course want to take a look at the amounts that are currently in our capital reserves. We've talked about those and why those are important for overall budgeting and planning. You should also take a look at page 45 and 46. This is the part of the annual report about curriculum and instruction and assessment. You'll notice there's a couple of references there to the work that's been happening as part of the accreditation process, including the Portrait of a Graduate work, which not only is part of our accreditation, but also something that we refer to in our strategic plan. And you'll also find additional references in the very comprehensive report for the high school. Again, please take your time to look through all of the wonderful things that all of our building administrators have identified. But in the high school one specifically, there's references to, again, Portrait of a Graduate work, as well as the committee's work with stakeholders in preparation for the collaborative conference, and then again, that decennial accreditation visit in 2027. Total costs that are estimated for the for accreditation activities over the course of almost a decade, total $35,700, and we are, with your help and support on this article, Article 6, for an additional $5,000. We will move closer to making sure that those estimated funds come from that capital reserve fund and not from the regular operating budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. I'd like to open this for public discussion, if there's any discussion on. I was going to say something else. Okay. All right, we have a motion from Tim Josephson to limit a reconsideration on Article 6. Scott Sanborn seconds. Any discussion? If all in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 6, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Scott Sanborn, I'd like to open discussion on Article 7, and Tim Josephson seconded. Article 7, Fund Cafeteria Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Cafeteria Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2003. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School Board recommends 5-0-0. Budget Committee recommends 8-0-0. I'd like to recognize Tim Josephson to speak to the Cafeteria Equipment Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Once again, this is a capital reserve fund that we have established in previous years to be able to plan for future costs. When we renovated this building, one of the ways that we managed to save costs is that we did not upgrade a lot of our cafeteria equipment. These things do cost, they can cost a lot of money for a freezer or a cooler. We have not always added money to this every year, but we have found that this past year we've had to replace 2 coolers or freezers, as well as a dishwasher. And there's other equipment that, we're looking at, and it's coming down to its end of life cycle. We've always had a line in the budget to do cafeteria equipment repairs, and we always spend that every year. And our facilities and maintenance department has done a wonderful job really getting a long life out of the equipment. But at some point you do have to throw in the towel and say, it's time for a new cooler, it's time for a new walk-in, or a new dishwasher, so what have you. So we ask for your support in this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Let me ask if there's discussion first. Is there any discussion on Article 7?
Just one question. Do we have any idea where we're going, how much this is satisfying our needs for the future, what the overall intent of the funds are?
Thank you, Amanda Isabel, Superintendent of Schools. Great question. I have had to replace a lot of appliances in the past year to the tune of 2 refrigerators. Those run about $5,000 each for what I need at the elementary school and at the Indian River School. We've had to replace a reach-in freezer for just over $5,000 this year. That's above and beyond the other repairs that we might have had to use. Next year, it's anticipated that I need a $12,000 stove at the Canaan Elementary School. I need a two-door refrigerator, not 2 refrigerators, a 2-door refrigerator at the Canaan Elementary School for the tune of $5,000, a 2-door freezer at the Indian River School for $5,000, and a dishwasher at the Enfield Village School in excess of $16,000. So you can see that when we get all said and done with that, I don't know, we're at money that is a substantial hit out of that capital reserve. And we do plan to pull that money out of the capital reserve fund to use next year.
Thank you, Amanda. Any other public discussion? Scott Sanborn has moved to limit reconsideration on Article number 7. Tim Josephson is seconding. Please raise your card if you're in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 7. Thank you. And raise your card if you're a no. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to open discussion on Article 8. And Scott Sanborn seconded. Article 8, Fund Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $10,000 to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th, fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School Board recommends 5-0-0. Budget Committee recommends 8-0-0. I'd like to recognize Tim to discuss or present this warrant article.
Thank you. Our thanks to the voters from last year voting to establish this Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund. We embarked on a sustainability plan looking at the district's energy needs, our energy efficiency, really under the auspices of are we able to save money through energy efficiency? Because there's been a lot of great technological advances over the last 20 years. We saw a lot of really cool energy saving things when we built this building. And so we recognize that all of our buildings have things that could use some energy efficiency improvements. We just asked to add a little bit more to this fund. Sometimes there are state grants or federal grants that have match requirements, 20%, 10%, whatever they might be. Having this money liquid that the board can use to jump on a grant is very helpful. It also allows us to better plan for our energy efficiency needs in the future. So we ask for your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Any public discussion on Article 8?
Gary Whitney, as Yogi Berra once said, this seems like a deja vu all over again. I noticed that we had the same article last year, just happened to be, coincidentally, the same article number 8. And the question was asked at one point, I remember, what specific projects are we going to use, are we going to do, fund with this money? And I noticed also that page 30, Capital Reserve Fund Reports, this is not listed on there. Is there a reason? Do we know what's going on with this?
Right, so the Capital Reserve Fund report you're looking at on page 30 is only through June 30th. So that capital reserve was not established until July 1st. So it would be in next year's. But you're right, there's $50,000 that was transferred to that fund
projects that are going to be funded with,
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. We don't have any specific projects. We have been talking about solar panels here at this district, at this high school campus for a number of years. We've looked at using the property that the district owns for solar fields to be able to tie into the grid and hopefully generate money or generate electricity that way. Unfortunately, none of our property is in a transmission area that can sustain it. So we've been looking at solar panels for this campus here to be able to offset the energy costs of this campus, given the amount of abundant, good direction of sunlight and things like that. That's what our sustainability report recommended, and so that is what we are in the process of starting to look at now going forward in this year.
so we're starting to look at, we have no idea what the cost is going to be. We have no idea what was funded for the 50,000 or so that we spent last year. This is what I was saying. We have all this money being allocated, and yet we're not really sure where it's going. We have no idea how it's going to be spent. And as such, I'd like to propose an amendment to this article also that essentially drops that $1,000 to, I'm sorry, $10,000 to $1,000.
So the motion,
Just briefly, I mean, this is really obviously a very small amount, which is the principle of the thing. What are we doing with the money? Getting money, that's how it's going to be spent. It needs to be tracked better. Thank you.
so the motion on the floor is to change Article 8 to shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,000 to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please state your name just because.
Yeah, go.
Thank you. Do we have discussion on the motion?
As it was earlier brought up as a question regarding and it's been discussed already, but the no amount to be raised of from taxation, the DRA does look at it as a tax increase, and that's why it's written as taxes. But really, I think any additional surplus should be going towards the bonds that the school has. I believe it was up to $9 million, so that is stretched out to 2045, maybe it was. But so instead of paying, as for last year, $600,000 on interest and only $700,000 to the principal, these surpluses in the budget should be really allocated, if anywhere, to going to lower that principal.
Thank you. Does anybody on the school board or the budget committee want to respond to this? Carol? I'll recognize Carol at the top mic.
Yeah, I'm not going to respond to what he just said, but to the motion.
To the motion.
We go through this every year. My assumption is right now, the money we put in the account last year is still there,
Correct.
and we're adding $10,000 to it. Because we might have an opportunity to get 70 or 80% of a project paid for by the state. But even if we don't, at some point we're going to want to do something, and it's going to cost money. And by reducing the $10,000 to $1,000, people are living in a dreamland. Probably 8 years ago, we looked at putting solar onto our house. So admittedly, it's a big house, but it's not a big house the size of this high school. And it was going to cost $20,000. So if we think we can put solar panels on the roof of this high school for $31,000, that's ludicrous.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Dave?
Seeing no other people wanting to speak, I call the question.
Thank you. So we're voting on the amendment to reduce Article 8 from $10,000 to $1,000 for the Sustainability Capital Reserve. If you are in favor of the motion to reduce the amount to $1,000, please raise your card. Thank you. If you are opposed, thank you. The noes have it.
I have a second amendment.
Okay, the motion to Article 5 is to change it to, shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $1 million to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th, fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second? Then there's no motion. Tim Josephson will make a motion to limit reconsideration. Scott Sanborn will second. All in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 8, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Is there any other business to be brought? Excuse me? Okay. Okay.
I think that when you read that last amendment, I think you said Article 5 when you meant Article 8.
Article 8.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Before we adjourn, I just would like to recognize Seth and his student assistants up in the booth for
Yes, thank you. Anything else? Do I need a motion to adjourn, Peter? Tim Josephson made a motion to adjourn. Daniel Thompson seconded that. Yes, we're adjourning until the second session, which is in March 11th, 2025. Thank you all for coming. All right, make sure you drop these off in your voting cards to your checklist people.